How's it going, everyone? KingBlackToof here. So today I'm going to be explaining the Ale of Ancestors card. I reviewed this as a bad card, and I stick by it mostly. The thing is that it's got a really cool ability. It's a nice ability. It's unique in the game at the moment because it's a boon, the first of its kind. However, its vulnerability is what makes it so bad. It's effectively removed or stopped in many ways by your opponent, and the only way to actually get full effect from it is to be pretty lucky that your opponent doesn't have any way to stop it, and that's too big of a risk for most people. I want to go over the pros and cons of the card in case anyone didn't watch my review, so they're caught up, and then I want to go over the secret technologies that it holds and ways you can use it, things you don't really know about it, because it does hold some secrets, that card. So the Ale of Ancestors card is a neutral gold card, 4 strength and agile, and while on the row, it bathes the row in golden froth. Now, golden froth is a type of boon. Every turn, at the start of your turn, it boosts 3 random units on the row by 1, and it gains 6 armor when you first deploy it. Now, let's just clarify that it boosts 3 random units on the row by 1. This can include itself, so in order to get maximum effect, you should have 2 other units on the row when you play this card onto that row. So let's talk about the pros and cons of the card briefly. So first of all, it doesn't actually give you any buffs when you first place it down. It doesn't do its ability on deploy, and this is a really big deal, which means that you might not get any value other than 4 strength from this card, which really hurts it, especially since it's a gold card. It really hurts it. It's 4 strength with 6 armor. It can be locked, and a lot of people can lock it quite easily. So like I said, there's no guarantee that you're going to get any value from the actual golden froth, so really risky. Now, if you want to remove this card, you have to do 10 damage to it because of the 6 armor. Now, there's not many ways to do 10 damage straight away. There are a couple though, and they are common choices because it's quite a good option to deal with big things like this. Things like Leo Bonheart, revealing Cantarella, is a common one. Madman Lugos can do a high amount of damage. It's very rare, but they might do an Oncrate Warrior, which is 11 strength. They might do a buffed up Clan Tursak Skirmisher, which could be 10 strength. So, I mean, it's not out of the realms of possibility to do 10 damage in one turn. Even the Dolblafana Swordmasters, buffed in hand, can easily do 10 strength. So this card, although it's difficult to remove, could be done. I mean, it's weak to Epidemic as well. Not many people run Epidemic, and it's a relatively low strength card. Depends if you've got any priestesses or Reaver Scouts to protect it in that way. Now, there are also ways of going through armor. So Harold the Cripple will hit for 10 damage randomly on a row, but he does go through armor, so he only has to hit this twice in order to remove it, which is really bad. Trebuchets go through armor, so 4 pings of this from a trebuchet. That's a lot more random and very unlikely though, so you don't have to worry about that. There are other ways to get through it as well, without actually having to go through the armor. Things like Mandrake. This will strengthen or weaken by 6 base value. That goes through armor, so you could banish this card with 1 easy Mandrake. You know, that's a big deal, I think, that you can easily do that, because that's a common tech choice. I think it's starting to come into favor, gets rid of a lot of units, so it'll get rid of this, and that will really mean that you've just wasted a gold card for no benefit whatsoever. Now, positive wise, when you place this down, it is a boon, and boons have the ability to clear hazards or other boons applied to a row. So if someone frosts you on a particular row, you can place this down, you'll clear the frost and add a boon. But on the counter reverse side of this, if the golden froth is on a row, they can frost that row and you'll lose the golden froth. Okay, so it works both ways, although I think it works more in favor against the card because you've only got 1 boon and it's this card, but weather, you've got loads and loads and loads of weather, and if someone's running weather, then they usually run more than 1. So if someone weathers a card, you place this down, they'll probably just reapply weather on the row if they can and eliminate your value, and you'll get nothing because, again, it doesn't deploy its ability immediately. So there's a lot of ways to get through this. Locking, destroying outright, weakening, so it's banished, placing a weather, so it eliminates its golden froth. You could also move it to stop it buffing anything on that row, possibly. So it's very vulnerable, which is why I rated it quite badly. Now, secret tech-wise, we're going to have a look at some games. We did some testing with it, and I'd like to thank the testers. I think it was Senf. And it does hold some interesting properties. So let's have a look at that now. So the first point is a negative one. If someone places frost or some sort of weather over the top of this card and then use a clear skies in order to remove that weather, you will not get your golden froth back. That has been cleared by the weather that was placed on top of it. So a massive negative there. However, there is a positive silver lining to this, which is if you move this card in any way, it will reapply the golden froth to the new row, which is a really cool thing to do. Now, it must be noted that if you have this going off on the melee row, the golden froth ticking, and then you move it to the range row, the golden froth will disappear from the melee row and then activate onto the range row, so you can't fill the entire board with golden froth, you just move it around. However, you could use this in a pseudo weather clear way. If you move this card onto a frosted row, it will overwrite the weather on that row with a golden froth, even if you had no weather clear in hand. So you can use it as a pseudo weather clear, moving it around the board, applying golden froth. Or if your opponent moves it with something like Zoltan, they will apply golden froth to the new row, which is really nice. If they move it with something like the Frightener, which might be a mistake, then it will apply golden froth and actually clear a weather. Which is a really interesting point to know, especially if cards around this card start getting moved away. You can move this card and apply weather onto a new row. And that's very important if you actually intend to counter weather, because this card absolutely dies to weather since you don't get the golden froth back, but by moving it you will get it back. So I think one of the main ways that you're going to be able to utilize the Ale of Ancestors card is by presenting your opponent with other targets which are worthy of removal before you play that card. If you build a deck and have Hawk of Smugglers in there, these cards are going to attract removal. They are very strong cards if left unattended. They get a lot of value. So people will want to remove them, and they'll use their owls or they'll use maybe locks and stuff like that to get rid of these cards. And as well as that, you could also use Mahakam Defenders. Their resilience will attract attention. It will attract removal and such. So by playing cards like these, you utilize the ability to kind of waste your opponent's removal. It's not always a dead cert, but by the time hopefully you play the Ale of Ancestors, they won't be able to deal with it because you've baited them with other stuff. Now, I still think it's very risky to play the Ale of Ancestors in this sort of scenario because, you know, people do save certain things. If they don't need to remove something, they won't, or they might keep something until quite late. So thank you for watching the Ale of Ancestors Explained. I still rate this as a bad card, even though I've showed some technology for it. It's just too vulnerable. I think CD Projekt Red could improve this card, possibly by allowing it to boost 3 units as soon as you deploy it. Would at least be 7 value. It's still very much a risk card. It falls into the category of you can't play it at the start of the game, so you can't get massive value for it because it will just get removed, it will get locked or banished or whatever. So you have to wait, and the longer you wait, the less value it does. So it kind of falls into the category of a very difficult card to use because you don't know quite when you can play it, and you'll either get nothing for it and absolutely waste a gold slot, or you're not going to get as much as you'd like because you waited a bit long. It's a very difficult card. So I'd like to end this video with a small question to you, something to think about, and that is, hazards always happen at the start of your turn. They're the last thing to happen at the start of your turn. So all your other timers like your Vran Warriors and stuff like that happen at the start of your turn, then your hazards tick. Now, boons seem to be the same every turn at the start of your turn. I think it might be more beneficial if they happened at the end of your turn. That way, the Ale of Ancestors could be placed down, and then it'll be the end of your turn, so it would tick once. And this would give access to, you know, boons doing their ability as soon as you played them in the future. Now, the only negative I can see are things like Fringilla. You'll get 1 less buff prior playing Fringilla and stuff like that. There may be some other things like possibly a unit is like 12 strength, and you don't know whether the Ale of Ancestors is going to buff that one or not, so you might have to buff it to stop a Gigny, a Geralt Igni. They're the only downsides I can see to that. The other alternative is to stick the ability on the deploy as well. But let me know what you think. Thank you for watching my Ale of Ancestors explained video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care.